Did you know that the way you look at the world can literally change how motivated you feel, how much effort it takes to do something, and even how quickly you can reach your goals? Imagine if just shifting your visual focus could make your workouts easier, your work more efficient, or the steps toward your goals feel smoother and more achievable. That's exactly what we're going to explore today. I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm joined by Dr. Emily Belchettis, a vision scientist who studies how attention, sight, and focus interact with motivation and performance. Emily, thanks so much for being here. It's my pleasure, Andrew. I've been really looking forward to this conversation because your work sits at the intersection of neuroscience, vision, and practical, actionable tools for everyday life. So let's start broad. How are vision and motivation connected? How does the way we see the world influence not just what we do, but how we do it? It's a great question. A lot of people think about goal setting in terms of conscious strategies, pep talks, reminders on your phone, post it notes everywhere, all the things we tell ourselves to stay on track. The problem is these strategies take effort. And while they work initially, very quickly obstacles appear, motivation dips, and people burn out. What we wanted to understand is whether there are strategies that don't require that constant conscious effort, strategies that could almost be automated by taking advantage of how our brains and bodies naturally function. That's when vision came into the picture. Vision is more than just seeing. It's a way of orienting attention, filtering distractions, and selecting which information we act upon. What we found is that by training where and how we look, we can dramatically improve performance and engagement. Can you give an example of how this works in practice? Absolutely. We started by observing athletes, including Olympic level runners. Intuitively, you might think that elite runners are hyper aware of everything happening around them. They're monitoring competitors, their surroundings, everything. Surprisingly, that's not the case. They focus intensely on a single target, almost like a spotlight shining on one point. Everything else fades into the background. They aren't scanning widely, they're narrowing their focus. And what does that look like practically? For a sprinter, it might be the finish line. For a longer distance runner, it could be a specific marker on the track or the shorts of the person ahead of them. By narrowing focus, they reduce distractions, maintain momentum, and conserve mental and physical energy. We tested this same strategy with everyday people doing moderately challenging exercises. Participants were asked to do high knee stepping toward a finish line while wearing ankle weights. Some were trained to use this spotlight focus, narrowing their attention on a single visual target. Others were allowed to look naturally at the environment. The results were striking. Those using narrow focus completed the exercise 27% faster and reported 17% less discomfort than those who didn't focus. Just changing where and how you look can alter not only performance, but also the subjective experience of effort. That's incredible. And it's not just about physical performance. This principle applies to starting goals too. Something most people struggle with. Many people rely on vision boards or dream boards, collecting images of what they want to achieve. It's a common strategy to clarify goals and stay inspired. But research shows that simply imagining success can reduce physiological readiness. In other words, when you visualize the end result, your body can interpret that as goal achieved, lowering systolic blood pressure and heart rate, which are indicators that the body is ready to act. Your body relaxes, which might feel good, but it actually decreases motivation to take the next step. So how do we fix that? The key is to focus not on the end goal, but on the first actionable step. Visualize the starting point, pick a small, concrete target in front of you, and treat that as your spotlight. Then anticipate obstacles and plan solutions ahead of time. This trains your body and mind to act efficiently when challenges arise. It's the difference between being ready for action and being stalled by uncertainty. Michael Phelps provides a perfect example. In the 2008 Beijing Olympics, he was on the verge of making history with his eighth gold medal. During his 200-meter butterfly, his goggles began to leak. Most athletes would have panicked in that situation. Phelps didn't. Why? Because he had anticipated potential obstacles and practiced solutions in advance. He counted strokes, adapted mid-race, and still won. Anticipating challenges and preparing responses in advance is a critical part of motivation and performance. And this principle isn't limited to elite athletes. Research shows that people who are unfit, fatigued, or carrying extra weight often perceive distances and obstacles as larger and more daunting. Their attention may be scattered, and targets seem harder to reach. In contrast, fit and motivated individuals naturally narrow their visual attention, making goals seem more attainable. The implication is powerful. By training where and how we look, Anyone can alter their perception of challenges and make progress feel easier. The practical takeaways are clear. First, use a visual spotlight on your immediate target rather than a broad line or wide field. Second, break goals into actionable steps rather than only imagining the final outcome. Third, anticipate obstacles and prepare multiple solutions ahead of time. This combination helps maintain motivation, reduces perceived effort, and improves engagement with any task, physical or mental. Here's a simple exercise for listeners. Close your eyes and imagine the next goal you want to tackle. Now, instead of picturing the final outcome, visualize the first step. See yourself starting, moving toward a clear point, and completing that step. Open your eyes and select a small, tangible target in your environment to focus on. Treat it like a spotlight and keep your attention there until you complete that first step. When you reach it, choose the next target and continue. By shifting focus this way, you're training both your mind and body to act efficiently and stay motivated. It's also important to combine visual focus with anticipation. Ask yourself, what obstacles might come up? What could go wrong? What are 2 or 3 ways to overcome potential challenges? Planning ahead ensures that when obstacles appear, you can act without panicking or losing momentum. That's a strategy used by top performers, and it's completely applicable to everyday life. So, to summarize, vision is not just about seeing, it's a tool for action. It can guide attention, shape motivation, and improve both performance and experience. Narrow your focus like a spotlight on actionable targets, anticipate challenges, and plan solutions ahead of time. These simple adjustments can transform the way you approach goals, reduce the effort required, and make the path to success feel more achievable. By consciously directing your visual attention and combining it with practical planning, you're not just observing the world, you're actively shaping your path through it. Motivation becomes sustainable, goals become manageable, and the effort required feels less daunting. Whether you're training physically, working toward a professional milestone, or pursuing personal growth, this approach gives you a concrete, science backed framework to make meaningful progress. So the next time you feel stuck or overwhelmed, remember, it starts with where you look. Focus your spotlight, anticipate what could go wrong, and take your first actionable step. That's how the science of vision meets the art of motivation, and how small adjustments can lead to big results. This script is about 1,200 words, flows continuously, starts with a 10-second hook, includes examples and mini stories, and incorporates actionable takeaways that a listener can implement immediately. By directing your attention intentionally, planning ahead, and focusing on immediate actionable targets, you're not just seeing the world, you're shaping your experience, your effort, and your results. Motivation becomes sustainable, challenges feel manageable, and goals that once seemed distant suddenly come into reach. Over time, these small, deliberate adjustments compound, creating a ripple effect of progress, momentum, and achievement that carries you further than you might have thought possible. But this is just the beginning of understanding how vision can actively shape behavior. One thing we've learned is that motivation and performance are deeply tied not only to what you look at, but also to how your body is positioned and how your mind interprets those visual cues. For example, people who are fatigued, physically unfit, or mentally drained often unconsciously narrow their visual field, making obstacles appear bigger and goals feel more distant. Their attention becomes fragmented, and even small tasks can feel insurmountable. In contrast, people who are in a physically and mentally engaged state naturally widen their perception in a controlled way. They focus on the right targets, filter out distractions, and maintain a sense of control. This is why athletes, even at the everyday level, benefit so much from training visual attention alongside physical performance. In one study, participants who were taught to maintain a narrow spotlight on their immediate target, like a finish line, a marker on the ground, or the next step in an exercise, were able to move 27% faster and reported 17% less exertion. What's remarkable is that these were not elite athletes. They were ordinary people, yet their experience completely transformed simply by adjusting how they visually engaged with the environment. And this principle goes beyond movement. It's about cognitive tasks, too. When you sit down to write, plan, or solve a problem, your visual attention can guide mental effort just as much as physical effort. Narrowing your focus to the immediate actionable step, the next paragraph, the cursor calculation, The first email, while filtering out unnecessary distractions, allows your brain to work efficiently. It prevents overwhelm and reduces the mental fatigue that often comes from trying to tackle everything at once. Another powerful aspect is how anticipation interacts with visual focus. Elite performers consistently use this combination. Michael Phelps is a classic example. During the 2008 Beijing Olympics, in pursuit of his historic eighth gold medal, his goggles started leaking during the 200-meter butterfly. Most swimmers would have panicked or slowed down. Phelps didn't. He had anticipated the possibility of failure and had practiced solutions in advance. He counted strokes, adapted mid-race, and continued toward his target without losing momentum. Anticipating obstacles isn't about worrying, it's about preparing. So when something unexpected happens, you can act efficiently without wasting mental energy. And you don't need to be an Olympic athlete to apply this. Anyone can take the same principle. Visualize the first actionable step. Choose a clear visual target to focus on, anticipate one or two obstacles, and plan responses in advance. For instance, if your goal is to exercise, pick a spot in your room or on the street as your visual target. If it's writing or studying, pick the page, paragraph, or next problem. Treat it as your spotlight and adjust your attention deliberately. When you reach that target, select the next one. Over time, this becomes a rhythm that guides your motivation naturally. What's fascinating is how these visual strategies also influence perception of effort. People often overestimate the difficulty of a task when their attention is scattered. They see the broad environment, notice distractions, and perceive distance or obstacles as larger. Narrowing focus on an immediate target changes this. It literally reduces the perceived effort, helping you feel more capable and engaged. This principle is backed by both psychology and physiology. Narrowed, intentional attention allows the brain to optimize energy use, reduce unnecessary stress responses, and maintain readiness to act. Beyond individual steps, it's also critical to think about the next step after next. What happens if the first attempt doesn't go as planned? Planning in advance for potential obstacles is a hallmark of high performance. Creating Plan B, Plan C, or even Plan D in advance allows your brain to conserve resources when challenges arise. You're not reacting in panic, you're acting with strategy. This is why top performers consistently outperform others under pressure. They've already visualized, prepared, and practiced responses to possible setbacks. Now, you might wonder how to integrate this into daily life. Start small. Pick one goal today, something achievable within the next 30 minutes. Identify a visual spotlight that represents the first actionable step. Visualize yourself moving toward it. Anticipate a possible obstacle and decide in advance how you'll respond. Then take that first step immediately. Repeat for the next step and continue the chain. By doing this consistently, you train both your visual system and your motivation system to work in harmony, and the benefits compound. Not only do you move faster physically or mentally, but your confidence grows. Each completed step reinforces the strategy, strengthens your attention, and primes your brain to continue acting efficiently. Over time, this becomes a self-reinforcing cycle of progress and momentum. Small wins accumulate, and larger goals feel achievable rather than overwhelming. So the essence of what we've learned is this: vision is not passive, it's a dynamic tool. It shapes attention, guides motivation, and influences perception of effort. Narrow your focus on immediate, actionable targets, anticipate obstacles, and plan responses. These steps transform how you engage with challenges, making effort feel easier, progress feel tangible, and goals feel within reach. And if you want to start seeing results today, here's a clear action. Pick one immediate goal right now. Identify your visual spotlight for the first step, anticipate a possible obstacle, and take action within the next 30 minutes. That's how you turn science into practice, knowledge into momentum, and intention into measurable progress. Remember, every small step counts, and how you see those steps literally with your eyes can determine how far and how fast you go. When you integrate visual focus, anticipation, and deliberate action, you're not just observing the world, you're shaping your experience, your motivation, and ultimately your results. So start with the first step, take the next one, and keep moving forward. Your goals are closer than you think, and the way forward is always in focus.